Have you guys ever worried that someone was going to throw their pee on you? Beep. Welcome back and happy Tuesday, my turkeys. I want to just start off. I want to start off. I want to start off by introducing myself. I'm Kailey. I'm normally joined by my co-host Kayla, but she is keeping a baby alive.
Hello, my Nonsexual Soulmate podcast, Turkey Tots. Wait, I like that. Kailey, can we use that? Turkey Tots? Okay. I still miss you guys, and I'm still on maternity leave. I will be on maternity leave for quite some time, but I am taking a little hiatus from Kailey and I sitting down and physically recording. As you guys know, she is taking over, and I know she's doing a great job, and I am just super grateful. She's holding down the fort so I can spend time with our son, Caden, who is, well, I don't know how old he'll be when you guys are listening to this, but he was born May 19th. If you missed the announcement, a little snippet a couple episodes ago. So May 19th, he's a little Taurus baby, and we are so in love. But I felt like I could take this time and give you guys, well, a little bit of honesty and what's the word? Maybe some hope if anyone's out there expecting babies or have gone through this. This is just a real talk situation where I did not, everyone says the birth is hard, but really prepare for postpartum. And unfortunately, because he came 4 weeks early, we kind of missed quite a bit of time to do the last bit of prep for our postpartum journey. So I just felt a little bit unprepared. Actually, let me take that back. I felt quite unprepared for how it would emotionally feel. And I'm sure we're going to get into this with actual episode, but I will say my top complaint, I guess is the word, would be the unfortunate circumstance of our society where we do not provide accurate or necessary resources to moms, especially first-time moms, but honestly probably all moms. I think we have a huge opportunity to fill the gap in resources that women need postpartum that you don't even realize that you need until you get there. And unfortunately, the biggest complaint that I have is that there are women who either can't attain these services and resources because either they don't know that they are a thing or they don't have the finances to be able to hire someone or get those resources provided. And insurance is kind of booty hole, if you want my honest opinion. And it's a real fight to get some of these things covered. So I'll go into a couple things if anyone's interested. This has all been such a big learning curve for us. Postpartum has been great. Besides, my one sticking point has been breastfeeding. There's so many women out there with babies, and some choose to breastfeed, some choose not to, some can't, some can, some do it for 1 week, some do it for 2 years. So whatever the breastfeeding journey looks like for you, there is no judgment. This is just my experience. My goal is to breastfeed our son for at least 6 months. I've always wanted to breastfeed, and it's been such it's just been such a thing that I've always been looked forward to, essentially. Did not realize it was going to be this hard. I've heard stories about how it's hard for a baby to latch. It's hard to produce milk. Everyone has a different story and different struggles, and some people don't have any struggles. Regardless, the struggle is a bit real over here. We are making so much progress, and I'm so very grateful. But that brings me to the point of I'm so thankful to all of my birth team who has essentially referred me to one person who's then referred me to a different person who's referred me to the next person. And all of those people have been such a game changer in our postpartum breastfeeding journey. Essentially, I feel like we should do an episode on tongue ties, but long story short, Caden's latch was extremely painful. So it's very difficult to breastfeed when you feel like crying in intense pain. So that, leads to many other things, like just either giving up or doing bottle feeding or just pushing through the pain, which is also not great because then you're going to have nipple damage. Anyway, long story short, shout out to A, my midwife, B, the lactation consultant that my midwife referred me to. She is amazing. She has come to the house 3 times now, has gone above and beyond, has stayed like 2.5 hours teaching, helping, adjusting, like all the things that I'm learning. I don't know how we would have gotten to this point without her. We didn't even know how much to be feeding him until she came to the house the first time, when we found out we were completely under feeding our child. And mom guilt came in so hard, started bawling like, oh my God, I'm starving my baby. But it's just like, you don't know until you know. But how would anyone know unless you have these resources available to you? And that's the sticking point. So shout out to my lactation consultant. And then shout out to the pediatric dentist that my lactation consultant referred us to, who then diagnosed Kaden with a very tight tongue tie, which was pretty much the cause of the pain in the latch and the breastfeeding. It was a big factor. So I'll get into that one day, but shout out to a holistic pediatric dentist that helped tremendously, like 65% improvement almost immediately. And then my last 2 shout outs are to bodywork professionals, including our chiropractor, who is Webster certified, which is a specific type of chiropractic care that's great for babies and children and is nervous system focused. Our sweet chiropractor came to our house like 3 days after he was born and adjusted him. And when I say adjust, I mean they're not cracking their backs, they're not cracking their necks. They literally are touching them so gently that it didn't even look like she was doing anything. But because babies are so small, the pressure needed is like minuscule. But that helps relieve tension. It helps adjust his nervous system, because birth is and can be traumatic for the mom, but also can be traumatic for the baby. Like they're literally getting squeezed out into this little tiny canal and then shoved out into the world. So a bit traumatic on the body. And then a craniosacral therapist. Is that the word? Craniosacral, let's see. Yeah, therapist. We have not done this yet, but it is our plan to do next. They basically work on, also as a body work focused on relaxing tension and the fascia in the body, whatever. Long story short, I don't want to bore you. I love medical blah, blah, blah. Like, this is nerd Kayla talking, but that's the gist of everything. Like, when they say it takes a village, it literally takes a village. I am so thankful to all of the people that have come into our life that have been able to help us, because I literally don't think we would be at this point, and or potentially not even breastfeeding at all, without everyone on our team. So shout out to all of you guys. And if any insurance companies are listening, y'all need to get your act together to cover these things, because this should be accessible to every single woman and mother out there. So, okay, Kayla's going to get off her soapbox now. All that to say, we can cover this in a later episode, but lots of learning the first couple weeks. And yeah, just thank you to everyone. Y'all have been literally life-changing.
So while she enjoys her maternity leave, y'all have to deal with me on the solo. So sorry. But don't fret. She'll be back. But she just needs some mommy time to get settled and to do her first 40 days to just really focus on herself and healing and the baby and her husband and this like whole new thing they're doing. So in the meantime, it's just random bullshit with Kailey. This week is 3 days before my husband's birthday. So in honor of Jason, I have worn his 40th birthday shirt. And I think we're just going to keep saying it's his 40th birthday because I think he'll be fine with us just kind of not focusing on it being 40 plus 1. But it's okay. Anyhow, for the listeners, I'm sorry that you can't see this. It's a great old photo of Jason from, looks like picture day at school that I got from his mom. I had these shirts made. They say, Lordy, Lordy, look who's 40. And I had like 25 of them made and had a surprise party for him at a brewery. And then everyone was wearing a shirt with his face on it. It was one of my crowning achievements as a wife. And the shirt is so comfortable that I wear it to bed a lot. And I think it's one of his nightmares. So, dun, dun, dun. Look at this thing, man. It's a work of art. He was so cute with his little spiked up hairs. Anyway, shout out to my mother-in-law for giving me this whole round of amazing photos of him. And to my sister-in-law for also giving me some great photos of him. It was so much fun. He was so overwhelmed by all the people. And the best part is that turkey, so I had his friend tell him that we were going to like meet him out for a beer because this was maybe like a week before his birthday. Damn, was it last year or 2 years ago? Is he turning 42? Oh no. No, he's just going to be 40 forever until I'm 40 and then he can be 50. What? Oh, so the plan to surprise him was that we were going to meet one of his friends at a brewery, and it's the one Pensacola Bay Brewery that I love, that we always go to. It's kind of our local haunt, if you will. And so we were going to meet Zach. I'm sure he's fine with me using his name. And that's a pretty normal thing for us to do. I mean, it's not an all the time sort of deal, but it would be totally normal for us to meet him there. And I think Jason thought something was up, and I will never forget. I was in the shower and he just had like walked into the bathroom, and this was his test to try to like catch me to see if this was some kind of a surprise party. He goes, hey, do you care if we switch to another brewery? And I said, no, it's fine. I mean, it's up to you. I don't really care. Just, message Zach and let him know so that he knows where to meet us. And that was what threw him off. And I'm so happy he couldn't see me when he asked, because I think my initial face was like, eh. But I was able to keep my tone together. And of course, like, Zach knew what we were doing. So Zach was like, no, man, like, I want to have a beer there, or whatever he said. He played it off A+ as well, because that relieved Jason's fears that I was trying to do something. And then, then there was something there. A bunch of people wearing an elementary school photo of him from like the year, like school photo. And then a bunch of his coworkers got him a basket of stuff, and it was like, I don't know, old guy shit. Anyway, it was very entertaining, and I still have the shirt. I will wear it forever on his birthday. I'm probably going to pack it on our cruise and wear it the day of our cruise. Probably not off the ship. But now it's just, I got to keep the tradition alive, man. That's just what it is. Anyway, As always, you all are about to be bombarded by some questions. And also, as previously stated, we may or may not be plugging a Kayla update along the way. It just depends on how things are going and if she's able to get around to doing that, because it's not a priority right now. But I will tell you guys that I check in on her and she's doing good and baby's doing good. It just makes me, seeing your friends become parents is just a cool thing. And yeah, I don't know. That's all I got to say about that. But my question for this week, it's me setting myself up again. But have you guys ever worried that someone was going to throw their pee on you? I assume that, except for my like 2 old coworkers that might listen to this, the answer is going to be no. But in the time of my life when I worked as a probation officer, I had that thought. Once a day might be an exaggeration, but at least a couple times a week. Because, yes, part of the job was collecting the pee-pee, but not from pee-pees. So obviously, parts matched parts when it comes to urine drug screen observations. And there were some women that, didn't like me and didn't like what was happening. And I get it. Because I think if faced with the option of having to potentially go to jail or do something shady, I might do something shady to avoid jail. So I will make every effort for this not to sound judgy, although sometimes, I don't know, sometimes there just are things to judge, guys, okay? It just is what it is. And I made it pretty clear last episode that I went into these people's homes. I would get to know their families. So I experienced a lot of empathy for the people that I worked with, but also addiction is hard and a terrible disease, and it destroys people and families and relationships and lives. But also, sometimes the stories that come out of those situations when you're the person that's working day to day in the grind can be pretty hilarious. So I'm prefacing all of this to say that the people that I'm referring to, I'm definitely not going to use their names, and I have changed some details. Not that I don't think there's anything to share that would be remotely identifiable. And anybody that has worked in a probation job can probably tell you that these stories are pretty universal. I will just say that before I go into full-blown humor mode, which is how you survive these kinds of jobs, just remember that you can laugh at something and think it's funny in one breath and still acknowledge that the situation is sad and horrible and tragic. But sometimes if you don't laugh, you'll cry. And that was a lot of my job. A lot. But anyhow, going back to having urine thrown on me. Let me just kind of set up the scene of how this happened, at least in our office. I'm sure every probation office is a little bit different, but when you collect for a drug screen, you have to know that it's that person's urine. So it's not like the doctor's office where, I don't know, I guess, why would you want to hide anything? So it's probably going to be your own pee. And then if you brought in fake pee, like what would that do for you at the doctor? Anyway. But you got to see what's going on because it's just the rules of policy and procedure. So while I wasn't like using a mirror and trying to do like a visual cavity search, I still had to be in the room with people, which is funny. It's like, maybe I should have known that that was part of the job, but it was kind of a weird thing. I just showed up to work and it's just like, oh, hey, we're going to watch someone go pee. And then you're going to see a lot of people go pee for ever and ever and ever until you don't have this job anymore. I don't even remember the first time. I mean, obviously, like, went with someone else because they're not just going to, like, throw you by yourself to go figure out how to do this. But I don't know. I think maybe I'm just good at keeping my face flat while my insides are like, what are we doing? But yeah, inevitably there were going to be people who were going to try to get around the system. And for women, I'll explain to you that there's a couple different ways that people do this. And I don't think that what I'm doing is by any means like an instructional how-to to help people get out of drug tests. Literally, Google exists, and every head shop in the world has like a defeating device of some kind. So I'm not like helping anybody win probation. But for women, obviously, we don't have weenies. So there's some different ways that I have seen / heard over the years of people trying to get out of their drug or pass their drug test. I think the most common one that I would see would be like you put something with urine underneath your armpit, or like tucked in the side of your bra that's in your armpit. And then a tube would run from whatever that squeezy bottle is down your back between your butt cheeks. And then when you went to hold the cup underneath your legs, you could feel for that little like straw top and then aim it into the cup. And then you would squeeze with your hand, or not your hand, you would squeeze the bottle that was like by your boob and in your armpit, and then try to push it through that tube that ran down your crack and came out by your pee hole. I know that gravity was involved, but just it's a lot of pushing, like armpit pushing. And let me just tell you, if anyone has ever considered doing this, it's not a great idea, because there's a sound that urine makes when it exits your body naturally, and it is not the like tinkle tinkle of dribbles coming out of a tube. Like, it just doesn't work. And the cadence is off and you're squeezing, and it's just obvious like that you're trying to do something. And also, are you not concerned about getting pee on your armpit? I don't know. So I definitely had seen that one in real life. And that was interesting. And one time we went to this particular woman's home and we saw it in her purse, because I think actually she'd gotten it to work once. So props to her for like squeezing and, aiming and making it sound legitimate. But it was sitting in her purse in plain view when we walked in the house, and I will never forget. It was like you could clearly see there are still dribbles of urine in the line because it's like clear tubing. And we're like, girl, what is this? And she dead ass looked at us, didn't even blink, and was like, that's for arts and crafts. I was like, what kind of PP arts and crafts are you doing? Arts and crafts? Arts and crafts. Of all the things that you could have lied and said, honestly, I would have probably just started with that's not mine. Because how was I to prove that that purse belonged to her? Arts and crafts. Ridiculous. I think we ended up confiscating it and turned it into the court. Anyway. Another one that I didn't personally get to experience, but was another like game for women, was filling up a condom full of urine and putting it in your hulali, which is the Sumagoo term for vagina, and like using your fingernails to pop it when you're in there, and then just hoping that you like pop it and some of it gets in the cup. But bro, this has to be the grossest one, because if it like pops, it gets all over your hand. And that, please keep in mind when we're telling these stories, like, you have paid to get someone else's pee that you have filled in these devices. Like, I don't know about you, but if I like got a little bit of my own pee on my hand, fine. But if I got someone else's pee, no. And also, old pee, stale pee, smelly pee, awful. So the condom balloon, not my favorite. I have also had different ways that people have tried to make me uncomfortable over the years to try to get me to like just say, never mind, you can come back a different day. which I understand the effort here. You know, we're not trying to fake anything. We're just trying to be like just enough of a pain in the ass that the person just doesn't feel like dealing with you. But here's what they didn't know about me. When you try to make me uncomfortable, stubbornness, activation. I was like, okay, I can play this game too, bitch. So my two favorite examples of this were, number one, I had a woman come in and she was on her period. She knew she was going to be positive for things that weren't prescribed to her. And she intentionally did not wear a tampon. And then she tried to get out of her drug test by being like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm on my period. It's really heavy. I didn't use a tampon today. So I should probably just like not do a drug test, right? And I was like, bitch, I ain't scared of no blood. I was lying. It was such a lie. That was hands down the grossest experience of my entire life. It was disgusting. I promise you, she intentionally like held it there longer to catch the drippings to try to make it look like a Jaws scene in that cup. And the test strips like soaked it up. It was horrible. I was gagging internally. I don't know that she ever noticed, but again, the stubbornness like prevailed the day because I just said, I'm winning this battle of the wills. And my gut was right. And it was all an attempt to gross me out enough that she could get out of it. And she didn't. And then I had to mail that bloody pee cup through the mail to the lab to verify that it was positive. For you guys that don't work in this field, I just want you to know that at any given time, FedEx or UPS or some mail service is driving around cups of pee in bags, in a bag. But there's cups of pee being mailed and shipped all across this country on any given day. I find it so funny. And also, side note, you know, there's the like poop in the box for the colonoscopy. Like literally piss and shit is being shipped all over the country all the time. Every day. Some poor person is picking up a mail delivery box of poo and pee. Probably not together, but it's happening. We are literally paying money to fly poop and pee through the sky to get to these places. I just want you to think about that when you go to sleep tonight. Next, I had one person who tried to scare me into not doing a drug test by pooping. Now, for men that work in the probation field, it's this thing where like you tell people they stand to give a urine sample because obviously you're not going to stand and poop your pants. Or maybe you would, but like, why would you? For women, you obviously don't have the same luxury. I'm not going to be able to tell somebody like you can sit down and you can pee, but you can't poop. I mean, I could say it, but I can't stop them. And there's no consequence for them other than the fact that they had to shit in front of me. So I will, it's a core memory of this job. I will never forget. She came in and I think she was legitimately sick, but she may have been dope sick, not food poisoning sick, but whatever it was causing some poopy problems. But she also had been testing positive, and I knew that she was trying to get out of it again. And so she was sitting there and she would try to sit and wait me out. So I would be in the bathroom with her sometimes for like 15, 20 minutes, just like sitting there being like, can we please just stop this game and go pee? Like I would watch her drink a whole bottle of water in the lobby. And then like I knew she was holding it. But again, stubbornness activated. I will play this game with you all day. So I will never forget. She was sitting there on the toilet and she was like, I'm going to poop. And just stared at me, and I didn't even say anything to her. I just made hard eye contact and stared back and then just flipped the fan on the wall. And as soon as I did that, boy, she let it fucking rip. We made eye contact while this woman just took a giant shit, and it smelled so bad. That fan didn't do jack shit. But did you think that I was going to make any face and give anything away that I was uncomfortable? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Oh, the poops. I'll never forget it. And like I said, she was positive, and the whole rigmarole over and over and over again. Another firsthand experience that I'll share with you, and then I'll move on to secondhand lore that was experienced by some of my male coworkers. I had to do a drug test once, and this woman was coming into court already on a violation. So it was, bad day, not a good time. Kind of figured she'd be testing positive, but the judge wanted, another drug test before the hearing. So you do what the judge says. And I went and did the drug test in lockup. And I went down there and I gave her the cup, and all of a sudden I hear this boop noise. And then I look back and she handed me this cup of cold, clear toilet water. I mean, it was cold tap water temperature. And I was like, is this really what we're going to do today? And yes, it was. So I looked at her and I was like, this is not your pee. She was like, yeah, it is. That's my pee. That came out of me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm really hydrated. That is my pee. Test it. That's mine. And like, when you dunk water in it, it ruins the cup, right? So I had to go get another fucking cup. And I was like, I came back down. I said, listen, that was toilet water. Nah, bitch, that was my pee. It's like, it's cold. If that is the temperature of urine coming out of your body, you're dead. And it's just being loosely expelled. That is not the pee of a living, alive person. Maybe a dead zombie, maybe a shark, not a human woman. Try again. And also, bitch, I watched you dunk it in the toilet. That's toilet water. So then after numerous amounts of fighting and pretending like we didn't have to pee, finally we peed in the cup. And what, to my surprise, opposite of hydration, her pee was almost brown. She was so dehydrated. And then basically lit up the side of the cup with positive for everything on the cup. I mean, every drug. All of them. Just like bingo. Bing, bing, bing. But it was a good ploy. The toilet water. It's a classic. Next on the line, I have two that I like to refer to as secondhand lore. Shout out to, one was definitely Jordan, and I believe shout out to Mike. I think they were the responsible parties for telling me these stories. But since I can't have them on here in this moment to tell their stories to you, I'm going to pass them along as secondhand lore. So, first we have the dunker. Now, this man was a special man, and he had a lot of characteristics, if you will. And in an effort to maintain his anonymity, I'm not going to go over some of his wardrobe choices, but they were specific, they were regular, and they were a very easy to follow pattern. Overalls. So he came in and apparently sat down to do a drug test, which I had, like I said, I thought that was the rule with the guys, was that you just didn't, there was the rule, like you don't sit, you stand and give your sample. But Jordan, being like the good-natured person that he is, I think probably just told him like, it's fine, dude, and you can sit. I think the gentleman may have been a little bit older. Anyway, this guy poops. So Jordan like immediately regrets letting him sit down. So he's in there just a pooping away, and based on the smell of his person, I can't imagine that body's excrement was a very pleasant odor. So Jordan's in there with the poops. The guy finally pees, and then he goes to wipe, and he gathers up a few pieces of toilet paper, reaches around behind his ass, and dunks it in the poop water, and then wipes his butt. What? I could see if maybe you had a massive shit and you were at home that you might use like the sink water to get it wet and sort of pretend that it was a wet wipe just so that you didn't feel like you were going to skid mark your pants. But he smeared around the poop on the rim with the poop water in the bowl. I want you to just think about that. I want you to think about how that was such a normal thing for him that he didn't even fucking flinch to do that in front of another person. It was that second nature. Not even ashamed. Because you'd think if it was something that you thought was kind of weird that you might like do in the privacy of your home, if someone were actively watching you in the bathroom, you might think, I'm probably not going to do the dunk today. Not this guy. He reached around and he swirled that toilet paper around in that dirty fucking poop water and then wiped it on his butt. Can you even imagine? This is why you have to wash your hands in public, because that guy then, if he'd have been in a stall in a public restroom and done that, he would have taken his poop water hand and then touched the stall lock to unlock it. And then if he was not an animal, would have washed his hands, but that would have meant his poop water hand touched the soap dispenser. It touched the sink. And if he didn't wash his hands very well, there may have still been some residual poop particles as he opened the door. Now let's take a moment to think about if he didn't wash his hands and his poop water hand touched the door to exit the bathroom, and then his poop water hand touched everything else that he touched in the restaurant, including the door to exit, which means even if you weren't going to the bathroom at that restaurant, when you touched the door to just leave the restaurant, you were touching a poop water handle. What? I just want that to settle with you. I'm not a big fan of hand sanitizer, but knowing that people are possibly walking around as dunkers it's a real game changer. And last but not least, we have my other favorite secondhand lore story. That's a sex toy. It all began, well, let me back up. In the world of faking a drug test as a guy, there's a device called a Whizzinator. It's basically a fake penis that you put in your pants along with your real pee-pee, and it has where the nuts would be like a bladder of someone else's urine, and you squeeze it and then it makes pee come out of the tip of this fake penis. And I've only seen a few of them. Some of them are fairly realistic. It's kind of amazing when you think about it, all of the different like color schemes that they have to make for all of the different genres of people that might want to have a fake peener for their fake drug test. There's some really creative people out there, and they are making fake dicks to go fake pee. So if you're ever having a bad day at work, just think to yourself, at least I'm not making a fake penis, right? So these Whizzinators, my understanding in the ones that I've seen, not on someone, but the ones that I had seen in evidence or like after they got pulled off of somebody, I mean, basically it's like a hollowed out dildo with like a hole in the front so that, the pee can squeeze out of it. But they have to stay up somehow, right? Like it doesn't just suction cup to your pubic area. So they were usually like a strap on, like an elastic belt, and then it hung from the belt, and then you'd obviously put your pants on. So I imagine as a guy, you probably, I don't know, they're not that bendy. So I don't know if you want to try to like take it out of your fly and then it looks like you have a half chub, or if they would pull down like elastic waistband pants and maybe that would look more natural. Anyway, so one time my coworker realized that a guy was using a fake one, and I actually, you know what? I don't know that he realized it. I think that the guy came in and I think it was actually a realistic peener, and that's what it was. Okay. Coming back. There was one time that a coworker figured out it was fake because basically it was purple. And it was like, bro, did you think someone was colorblind? Like, that doesn't even look like a dick color. Like, if that's the color of your penis, you need to go to the hospital. Anyway, so this guy had one that apparently was pretty realistic. He came in before a court hearing. He ended up getting taken into custody because of some other stuff that had gone on that day. And he got arrested in court, right? So he didn't have time to take off his wiener device, his Wizinator. So they discovered it when they strip searched him at the jail to book him. And all of that's pretty normal. I mean, like you would expect that. It kind of was embarrassing on us that we didn't know that it was fake, but you know, you can't catch every single one. And some people are just apparently better manufacturers of fake penises than others. So this all happens. My coworker ends up writing a violation report basically saying like, hey, he faked his drug test. He had a Wizinator on at the jail. They found it when they searched, blah, blah, blah. So when the guy comes back on this violation, the judge, basically is like, yo, what's up? Because that's how judges talk. And this guy tries to sit in a courtroom, in a court hearing, and tries to convince the judge and everybody else sitting in the room that that wasn't a Wizinator, that was a sex toy. He wanted to convince everybody that his girlfriend liked it when he wore that device. It was a sex toy, not a Wizinator. And that's what she'd asked him to do. Just wear like double dick it all day. Can you even imagine? I mean, I think maybe like as a guy that seems like maybe that's a plausible excuse. But I don't think he thought through the fact that there were women in the courtroom. And speaking as a woman, I know I can't speak for every single one of us in the world, but I can't think of anything less appealing than two penises at once from one person. What kind of weird Chernobyl role play are you trying to convince us that you're doing? No. Ain't nobody out here like, hey, baby, I want you to strap this on so that I can know you're wearing it all day so I can think about that DP tonight. Absolutely not. I'm shaking my head and I realize people listening can't hear my head shake. What in the world? So kids, if you're listening and you shouldn't be, if you ever need a reason not to do drugs, it's not because Nancy Reagan told you not to. It's because if you get addicted to them, you're going to do silly, silly things. Like try to tell everybody that your girlfriend likes you to wear an extra weenie. And tell people that pee-filled tubes are for arts and crafts. And have to have another person watch you pee. It's not worth it, man. That's not worth it. Not worth it. So all that is to say, there were numerous times that I pissed people off and they were at their wit's end and they were at the end of their rope. And I would just sit there and look at that cup of urine in their hand and think to myself, today's the day. Today's the day. They're going to throw it on me. It's going to get in my mouth. I'm probably going to throw up. And then what happens? Like I have to go to court and testify about how someone dumped pee on me. So I did start keeping like extra clothes in my office because I would run it through my head all the way. Like, okay, if this person's going to throw their urine on me and then be covered in piss. And then what I have to sit in like pee clothes to write down a report because someone's going to have to take a report. And then I'm going to sit there in my pee and then I'm going to have to drive home in my car and with my urine soaked clothes. Not happening. So again, if you're having a hard day at work or you're on your way to a job that you don't find thrilling, I hope that at the very least you don't have to think about someone throwing their urine on you and that you don't have to make fake penises for someone to use as sex toys. And with that, I would just like to say thank you for listening. Those are my new version of toilet stories for you. If any of my old coworkers are listening, or anyone that has had to do UA collections, please send us an email or leave a voicemail, or even just leave us a long comment and tell us about some of your crazy stories, because I know you have them. I only did that job for 5 years, and I could go on for 5 more hours about just some of the crazy like excuses that people come up with, and some of the crazy things that people will say. And again, there's nothing like good about somebody being at their wit's end and at the end of their rope that like prompts some of this just absolutely insane behavior. But if you don't laugh about it, you are not going to survive in a job where you have to work with people. And that is why, if you aren't dealing with people all day and you think that your friends who work in a human services job are demons, I just want you to like pause for a minute and just think about that. Because if they didn't laugh, they would probably cry, or they might go crazy and lose their whole minds. And also, if you can't have a dark sense of humor, like you're not going to last. You're not going to make it. You're going to burn to a crisp and burn out, and then you're going to be a terrible person. So sometimes, to stop yourself from being a terrible person, you have to tell terrible jokes. That's the moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, love you, bye. And as always, we'll see you next Tuesday.